All right, I'll call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. I would take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Rick, seconded by Bruce to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda. If anybody doesn't have any questions on that, I would take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Been a motion by Maggie, seconded by Sean to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, the next item, Jake, you're up. Overview of the Scott County Library Services.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
I'm Jake Grusing, Scott County Library Director. Scott County Library operates 7 public libraries, 6 of them in Scott County and 1 in LeSueur County, as you probably know. We operate a little bit differently than most other metro area library systems in that the cities own and maintain the buildings in which we operate, and the county delivers the service. So it has to be a partnership to be able to do this work effectively. And I'm proud, and I hope you are as well, that the relationship with the city of New Prague has been very strong historically. You've provided great support for the county library system. The staff there feel really well taken care of by the city staff. So first, I just want to express appreciation for that. Secondly, you're going to hear from, fortunately, mercifully for all of you, people other than me for the rest of the evening. We have some other library staff here as well. So Lisa Pollard is our Learning and Outreach Manager. Allie Addison is one of our Learning and Outreach Specialists. And Christy Rieger is our Library Technology Manager. They're going to talk to you about 2 broad topics this evening. One is extended access, a model of providing more access to the New Prague Public Library facility, and specifically unstaffed hours. The second topic is the Readmobile. That's been present and hopefully pretty visible in New Prague, but we want to share some more information with you about that. And hopefully we'll get an invitation to bring that vehicle down here on a sunny day in the summer. But it can be a little cool out there this time of year. I brought up partnership because I think that same and collaboration, those same things apply to the 2 topics we're going to talk about today. So we're here presenting a proposal essentially for extended access. This is a service model that we've implemented in Jordan and Elko New Market successfully. But for it to work, it requires the city's participation and the city's support as well. So this is your opportunity to ask us questions, to share concerns you might have as you learn about the service model. We're here to make sure you feel comfortable with that before we move forward. Same thing with the Readmobile. We have staff who they really try to do their research to understand where should we be bringing that service to serve families in New Prague. If you have questions about that, if you have suggestions about where we should be delivering that service in the future, again, this is an opportunity to speak up and make your voice heard in this partnership. So without anything else, I'll hand it over to Christy Rieger, our Library Technology Manager, to speak with you about extended access.
Okay.
Thanks, Jake. So first of all, hello everyone, my name is Christy Rieger, and like Jake said, I'm the Library Technology Manager, and I have been stewarding the very exciting project known as Extended Access. So you're probably wondering, what is Extended Access? You may have heard it called Open Libraries. It's a new model that we're using to add hours on top of current staffed hours using self-service technology to allow customers to be able to enter their library on a self-service basis and use library resources during periods when the staff aren't there. And the way it works is you can see in this image, this is a former library staff member. Her name is Brittany. And outside the Jordan Library, Brittany is currently modeling how extended access works, which is that it is something that is added to your library card and then allows you to scan your library card at that black box and entry panel, and it will then unlock the building for you. Now, you're probably wondering, why extended access? Why is Scott County Library pursuing this service? For one, it's a great way for us to allow residents to access their library when it works best for them. So we often hear from residents who say, I'd love to see you more. I'd love to be able to get in to use a computer more. I'd like to be able to pick up my items in times when you aren't available. And what extended access has allowed us to do is to give residents the ability to do those things during times when you may not even have library service in a traditional time period. So for example, at the Jordan Library, the most popular hour to visit is actually the 6 to 7 a.m. hour, which allows a lot of commuters, a lot of folks who are early risers, have a specific lifestyle, to be able to just come in and grab the stuff that they need or be able to quickly print something out if they need it. And it has been wonderfully convenient. So what problem are we trying to solve? On the top here, you can see the current staffed hours at the New Prague Library, so currently 36 hours. You can see that on some days we don't have access to the building in the morning, some days we don't have access to the building in the evening. We have several closed days. On Saturdays, we have about 4 hours of staff time available. We know that these 36 hours are not going to serve everybody's needs. We know that this may not be the perfect time for everybody to stop by the library. So on the bottom, you can see all of the new visiting opportunities that Extended Access offers from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Now, let me tell you a little bit about where the idea for Extended Access came from and how it's been going so far. So to start out with, in September of 2018, we started researching this idea of self-service because it's fairly new in American libraries, but it's not that new in European libraries. In Denmark, in Sweden, this is actually a quite common model that allows people to come and go in a variety of different ways. So we did a research project with the Resilient Communities Project through the University of Minnesota, and it was kind of cool because we were able to use students and send them out into the field and have them interview different people who've already used the software solution that we pursued. We got lots of data and information about how it works in these different places. And then we also used these brand new library and social work students to be able to give us ideas about, okay, in what ways can we use this data to make it succeed? So then we know March of 2020, we were getting really close to launching at the Jordan Library, and we all know what happened then. So we decided then to put the project on pause, and then around September 1st, 2021, we recruited a pilot group for the Jordan Library. So we recruited 46 users. We gave them a quick orientation and said, we really want to know what this experience feels like for you. What are the different sort of micro experiences going in and out of the library? How does this feel for you to be in the library when a staff member's not there? So we held that pilot for 2 months, and we got fantastic feedback. So then we were able to launch at the Jordan Library on November 1st of 2021, and that allowed all cardholders aged 16 and older to opt in. Then, a year later, we were able to fully launch the same solution at the Elko New Market Library. So same exact hour, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. If someone has signed up to use the service in Jordan, it allows you to use the service in any location. And then our ultimate goal is to eventually bring this service to all Scott County libraries. So the next location that we're looking at is the New Prague Library, and the tentative launch date that we're looking at is around March 1st. Now, we know that there's lots of planning that goes into extended access. We go through a really thorough checklist of making sure that the space is safe, to make sure that everything is secured, to make sure that the system is operating in every single way that we want it to. So if we need to push it past March 1st just to make sure that it is exactly the type of service we want to offer, know that we're going to have some flexibility in that date. So how does that change what the experience will be like at the New Prague Library? In all honesty, you may not see a ton of changes. The main thing to know is that the physical space and the layout of the library is staying the same. We do share the large meeting room, which is currently available for after-hours access, so sort of the original extended access. That room is going to continue to remain locked and available by reservation only during extended access to make sure that the current procedures for anybody, whether they have extended access or not, can still use that room whenever they sign up to. Some of the new things that you'll see first is that card reader. So the original picture I showed you, that black box, that will be added to the entrance outside the parking lot. The other big thing that we're adding in the library is 10 security cameras. We did a very thorough job of checking from every angle whether or not we'd be able to have the whole library covered. It is very important to us to make sure that both our staff and our customers and our guests all feel safe when they're in the building. We'll be adding motion sensors to the lights, just obviously first for safety and also just because we know more people will be in the building at new hours to make sure that we are doing our best to preserve your energy costs for the building. And also, we're gonna make sure that that lovely heritage room, the Tukolsky room, remains locked during those hours just for the protection of the room. We know it was a really important investment to the community and also because there are artifacts in that room. So what may potentially impact the city of New Prague's budget? First is facility cleaning. So we know that the New Prague Library is open most days of the week, but the more people are in the building, we have noticed more traffic leads to more, usage of the bathroom, more, trash cans filling up. So more people may need more cleaning. Like I mentioned before, we will be adding those motion sensors to make sure that your energy costs do get preserved, but that is maybe something you may see a slight bump in. And another thing we want to make sure is that we're having that good attention to shoveling sidewalks and snow plowing. The access to the building is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So that's something that the city can help us with making sure that the sidewalks are shoveled so everybody stays safe. So we've had lots of opportunities to gather data about how this has currently impacted our operations. And during the process, we have done a ton of feedback gathering, both first during the research process, where we put out a survey into the community. We got nearly 2,000 responses, and also just ongoing feedback from our other guests and also from our extended access members. There's some concerns that have, of course, been raised that I'm sure that all of you may be thinking about. First is service level. Will extended access lead to us, the Scott County Library, decreasing the amount of service that's available to New Prague residents? The answer is no. This is an add-on to staffed hours, so we do not plan to reduce staffed hours or to reduce the number of programs or anything else we offer to the community. The next thing is staff impact. We want to make sure, again, self-service. This is an add-on to our current operations. It's not a replacement for library staff. We know how valuable they are to our community, and obviously we care very much about them as well. There are also some concerns expressed about safety and security. So obviously we've been taking those things very seriously. We have had no security issues. We have had wonderful membership from our residents who have been doing a great job of telling us when things maybe aren't up to their expectations, have been doing a great job of stewarding the space because anybody who signs up for it clearly cares about the space and cares about the integrity of the library. So we've also put in one more important piece in place to make sure that we're keeping the library safe, which is making this an opt-in service. It's not necessarily available immediately to everybody with a library card. So we do ask people to register. It is available to anyone with a Scott County Library card age 16 and older. When someone comes to the library to sign up, we do ask them to provide a valid photo ID to make sure we're verifying that whoever's signing up is the person with the library card. We are making sure that they are giving us a method of contact, preferably email. And also a common question we get is, well, can that person bring guests with them? So for example, a parent bringing in young children, the answer is yes, but we make sure to be very clear in the agreement that the person signs that they are taking responsibility for all of their guests. So this is just a quick picture to help you visualize what that process looks like. It's somebody who's interested in the service comes to the library during open hours, speaks with staff. The staff member will really quickly send them over to a computer or where we have currently uploaded some new videos that allow you to really understand how the service works, or the staff member will give them a verbal overview. This customer signs the agreement, we retain a digital copy, and as soon as the staff member clicks the button in the software, the customer can use the service immediately. So you're probably wondering, so who's using extended access? Who's currently benefiting from it? So in the past year and couple months since September 1st, we've been gathering lots of data. We currently have, as of today, 377 registered users. The system allows me to really observe who in what age range is really interested in this. Right now, we're seeing the age group of 55 to 64, very interested in that. This is mostly from the Jordan Library's data since Elko New Market's so new. Right now, we know that extended access entices people to even cross city lines to use a different library in order to be able to take advantage of this service, whether it's for remote work, whether it's for this is a closer place for my commute for me to visit, lots of different really exciting reasons. So we've seen early risers, we're seeing commuters, we're seeing plenty of remote workers who are bringing in their laptop to be able to take advantage of our Wi-Fi. We're seeing parents with young kids. If you're a mom and you have a young child, it's been lovely to see mom groups coming into the Jordan Library to be able to hang out together and have their kids hanging out in the library, which is a nice place to be, especially during the winter, with access to books. So what else are they doing during extended access? So we know one of the biggest uses is just people coming in who have put something on reserved. They want to pick it up and they've already put it on hold. We know that lots of people are really enjoying just the opportunity to browse the collection. We know some people like the library when it's busy, when there's lots of families, and some people prefer the library when it's nice and quiet. So this is an opportunity for us to give those folks who prefer the quiet time another opportunity to be there at a time that works best for them. We've also, and this is really near and dear to my heart as the technology manager, seen people take advantage of being able to use the Wi-Fi or be able to use technology, so our computers being publicly available. So there are folks who we know who are regulars who are coming in because they're using this as their regular access to the internet. And that's been a really meaningful impact on their life to be able to come into the library whenever they need to use a computer. So how frequently are they using it? So right now in Jordan, we're seeing around 13 unlocks per day. So we get a daily report that tells us how many times the door was unlocked. We can have anywhere up to 25 unlocks in a day. And I'm really proud to say that in its first year, the Jordan Library was unlocked over 3,500 times safely, really showing how much our residents care about this service and how much they care about their library. So, how are we getting this information out into the community? So you can see on the screen just a quick screenshot of what our flyer looks like in the library. Our website, scottlib.org/EA, has those videos that I mentioned and lots of other information about the service. And we've been advertising this service in our social media, in the most recent edition of the Scott County Scene, last year's residents report. So lots of opportunities for residents to learn about this service and to make sure that it feels safe and ready for wherever the next location is going to be. Some other ways that we ask our community to participate in this, so we help our users understand that we really rely on them to make sure that they're telling us when something doesn't go right or if something isn't meeting their expectations. So in this screenshot, you can see our mobile app. We've made it really easy for someone to download our app to be able to access our feedback form in a few tap of a buttons. If someone submits that form, it comes to me, and I am on call to help make sure that their issue gets resolved. We also have some lovely paper comment cards that are used often. This is one of my favorite comment cards. This is from a mom named Diane who told us she loves the extended access. For example, there was no school that day and she was able to get 2 youngsters in for reading materials. They loved it. And of course, our little friend Logan told us, he said, thank you for more hours. So, do you have any questions about extended access service?
So it's between 6 and 10. I mean,
Correct.
it's not 24 hours. I had that vision stuck in my mind and I don't know why, but okay.
And for the hours you're open, we can go and get a library card and that figured out
Yes.
on the hours that are open?
So on the scanner, does it require any secondary validations other than just scanning your card, like a PIN number or anything of that nature?
Yes, it does require your library PIN number.
Okay, great, thank you. Matt, any concerns about snow removal on those extended hours?
No, so the library staff, while they're working, they usually do a lot of the sidewalk cleaning. It, probably clean twice a day, on a snow event. Parking lots can be cleaned normally during the night. So I think it's gonna be one of those we play it by ear to see how it goes. I can't tell you how much more
Sure.
access, but, we met, me, Jim, and Josh a few months ago and voiced our concerns we had that she was able to right away and kind of gave us, eased our minds. comfortable that we're not the first ones doing it, that someone else did it before us, so I don't have any issues. I think it's great, great thing.
Yeah.
No, I love the idea, you know, especially as a library user as well.
Bruce?
As far as security, I understand you have 10 cameras. Those aren't actively monitored, are they?
So they haven't been installed yet, but they will actively monitor throughout the day.
Will somebody be watching them actively?
We won't be actively watching them, but we will have immediate access to them
Sure.
in any event that we need to.
Sure. So if someone is extending past 10 o'clock, does someone know that and notify someone to do something about that? Or what happens if someone's there, doesn't leave the building? And then you have, my concern is staff coming in. Does staff look at the cameras ahead of time? Do they check out it? Obviously, one of the biggest security issues is someone's hiding out. And that
Of course. So the first thing is to know is we use the cameras as a deterrent. So we also have built into the system an announcement, a PA announcement that will warn somebody you need to leave right around 9:45. So those are two deterrents. I can say we have never had somebody in either Elko New Market or Jordan stay past 10 o'clock. Those two buildings have alarm systems, so it hasn't been an issue there. The staff do not check the cameras before they come in or any situation like that. But I would say that if we did discover that, that is certainly something that I would work with our police chief to make sure that there's some systems in place to ask people to leave more effectively, and also to work through what are some of the next steps that we can make sure that that person doesn't do that.
I have a banking background, so that I was very in tune to security. We canvass the buildings on a regular basis, morning and evening, for people that could possibly head out. So could someone stay there till 12 o'clock? And
If someone is in the building after 10 o'clock and the door opens, I will immediately get an alert. So that would be my opportunity to go check the cameras to maybe rewind and see whether or not they were in the building. Whether or not they could stay, we don't have an alarm system in the building, so there's not, as far as I'm aware, that particular layer in place. But hopefully I've answered that question in a roundabout way.
well, I understand that someone could stay past 10 o'clock and the staff could come and not be aware there's someone in the building. That would be a concern of mine.
Sure.
And it hasn't happened yet, I'm sure, otherwise you'd say that, but
Yeah, so with the library being open, let's say it opens at 10 o'clock for staffed hours on a given day.
okay.
Because extended access is starting at 6 a.m., the staff in both Elko New Market and Jordan, same thing in New Prague, they need to enter the building assuming there are going to be people in the building. Because on a Tuesday morning, there are people who could have, we're hoping, so far we haven't had anybody who's stayed past 10 o'clock and then been there in the morning. But there could be people who show up at 6 a.m. and who stay there in a study room, in a meeting room, reading the paper, browsing the collection. Those folks might be present in the library. So the assumption we want our staff to make is when you're walking into that building, hopefully you're walking into the building with somebody else. You're using the staff entrance where we have one. Fortunately, in New Prague, we do. But you should make the assumption that there are people in that space, just for your own safety. So even if there aren't people, that's part of the concern I'm hearing from you, Councilmember Wolf, is that there may be people in the building when our staff arrive.
Sure, there's a number of days that overlap that the staff would be there where it's still extended, but there's days where it's,
More in the
people are expected to be gone by 10, but staff don't come in, if they're scheduled to work at 12, they don't come in at 10.
Right, they'd come in at 12, but even when they're coming in at 12, there may be people there.
From
because
10?
From 6 a.m. to noon. Or from
They would
6
go
a.m. to
past
12.
the extended access hours then?
They wouldn't go past 10 p.m., but they could get there earlier the next day. Because the access begins every day at 6 a.m. So those people who come in from 6 a.m. to noon or 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.,
So the green is the.
Yeah,
is the
they don't
current
have to
staff.
leave. The folks who come in the morning don't have to exit the building before staff arrive, if that makes sense.
Well, maybe I'm misunderstanding this then. Isn't the regular hours 12 o'clock on a Monday?
Yeah, 12 to 8.
So staff wouldn't come in until just before 12?
Yeah, but
But-
people
but-
can be in there between from 6 AM till noon already.
Yeah, so somebody might come in at 11:30, and so they would be there, no different than, I guess, if somebody stayed there all night long and was there at 11:30 in the morning.
So then the extended hours for Monday would be 6 AM to noon, not 6 AM to 10 AM.
Yeah, it says 10 AM.
Right, because there would be
Is
a
that
Oh, I
2 hour
think that's
So
a
window.
that,
glitch.
that may just be a typo then. Yeah.
So it's not 6 to 10?
It's a valid question, though. I mean, what's stopping somebody from, going in there and staying warm at night?
I think Monday and Tuesday got mixed up.
Yeah, it looks like
They
Monday,
got flip-flopped.
basically it'll be open 6 AM to 10 PM every single day.
Okay.
And then we'll have our current staffed hours within that span of 6
And
AM.
that would be the green in this case.
Apologies for that.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that. I obviously,
So we don't have that building alarm for fire either? Okay. That's something to think about, I
The-
guess.
you mentioned the Tukulski room and the Kamarik room would not be available for this extended access.
That's correct. So for the Tukulski room, we're thinking about a pull-across cage to just fully close it off. The Kamarik room, I think, is the large meeting room.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that room is currently secured with a badge reader. So right now, we currently have after hours and before hours access to that room as well. And in order to do that, that person needs to borrow a badge reader in order to unlock it. So even if someone is in the building during extended access hours and wants to use that room, they would still have to have a badge reader that they've checked out from library staff in order to use it.
Are those badge readers out and available currently for that room?
Yes, they've been installed.
And people that schedule that room can use them?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So then, are the conference rooms available for the extended access, these small study rooms?
Yes, we have left those open in both Jordan and Elko New Market, and we will have cameras trained on those just in case.
And then, because I'm on the Historical Society too, and that's our home, that conference room or that Kamarik room, is there things being done at the same time or in conjunction with this project to that room?
Not in conjunction with this project.
Okay. Is there something else happening?
Yes, we will be, you may have heard about our new AV system that we're installing in that room.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, when we added the library, I wish we would have been able to double or triple the size because there's a lot of wrestling sometimes for scheduling that room. We have a limited amount of space for the demand, I think, sometimes for that area, but I'm excited about the opportunity and I think it's a great idea. And obviously, we're all concerned about vandalism or improper use. You know, we just have to play that by ear, but you've had no vandalism at all so far?
Nope.
Okay. That's all I got.
You referred earlier to a Jordan incident. Was there, that was the rollout? I thought maybe I misunderstood you, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have never had that kind of safety incident at the Jordan Library or the Elko New Market Library.
Okay.
Okay.
That in and of itself is encouraging.
Well, and some of that may be too, generally people who are getting a library card and going into the library are probably less likely to then go in to do vandalism to the library.
We know who you are, right?
I imagine you still have the risk of someone going in with someone else and it
Yes.
becomes a hangout.
Yes.
Or letting somebody else in.
Or a lost card.
Yeah, well,
But they have to enter their PIN, so if there's a lost
Oh,
card,
there's a
they
PIN
wouldn't be
involved
able
too,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was asked about about the
that's what I
secondary.
would do.
Yeah,
So,
reminding myself, that's all.
so what do we have to just give our,
Nope, so this is just a presentation.
just a presentation?
And I don't think
Okay.
they're done yet.
So other stuff will be coming to the council, if need be. Okay, Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very informative.
All right, thank you. And then we'll hand it off to Lisa Pollard and Allie Addison to talk with you a little bit about the Readmobile.
Sure.
All right, so, yes, I'm Lisa Pollard, Learning and Outreach Manager.
Hi, I'm Allie Addison. I'm a Learning and Outreach Specialist with Scott County Libraries, and I help coordinate the Readmobile and our visits.
Yeah. So this is a fun picture from this past summer at an event that took place in New Prague in Memorial Park. It was a partnership event with Channel 2, Twin Cities Public Television, and they brought a costume character. We had library staff there. We brought the Readmobile and had a chance to talk to quite a few people about the Readmobile. And some people even came on board and took a look inside. But I thought that was kind of a fun picture to share. It shows Blanca Guzman, who is our other learning and outreach specialist and a Spanish language specialist. So.
And Allie, you're the one in the outfit?
No, that was someone brought by TPT. Although I would be happy to do costume mascots if it was required.
You would be.
I would.
You want to go ahead on the
Yeah.
next view?
So the Readmobile is an example of a partnership that we have with our communities in Scott County that came from a county initiative. So I'm going to give you just a brief overview of that history because New Prague played an important role in the Readmobile being present in our communities. In the county goal is to have safe, healthy, and livable communities. And in 2017, the objective was made for early child development that all children have the opportunity for safe, healthy lives, and using the third grade reading level as the predictor of success. This has just been kind of that benchmark that they set. And one strategy was to develop and launch an early learning outreach program targeting children and their caregivers. And so thanks to the Shakopee Metawakan Sioux community and the Diane J. Sachs Foundation, which has ties to the New Prague community and the New Prague Library, we were able to fund an outreach vehicle to try and promote early literacy and literacy in general to families and communities who may not regularly visit the library for whatever reason, whether it's transportation, hours, just distrust, for multiple reasons, or language barriers. So we were trying to reach out to communities that we may not usually see. We look at, when we schedule visits, we look at where are we going, where can we maybe meet people we may not usually see? Does this have a strong community connection? Is there a chance to provide early learning, or enhance early literacy that's already occurring? In fact, we have a decision tree for it. So we designed a chart to ask us, is there an existing partnership from the previous season? We always contact sites. We drive out to see if we can bring the vehicle. If it's a viable location, it's a 32-foot vehicle, so we need a lot of space to park it. And it needs to be level so we can allow people onto the vehicle. The vehicle launched in March of 2018, and we have been visiting New Prague since then. I email Ken usually regularly with the dates and times that we'll be there. Our first visits were with community events that were tied with the library, so the end of summer party. And then in 2018 and 2019, we did visits to Foundry Hill Park in New Prague. And then last 2 years ago, we tried Northside Park, and we've had a far greater success in connecting with families. We find visiting at a park allows for opportunities for kids to play and also have literacy enrichment activities, so it becomes an event. So if we have that ability to park and bring the vehicle, if we aren't able to bring the vehicle, but we still feel like there is a connection that we can make, we do try and provide additional outreach. So we do outreach outside of that vehicle. But with the vehicle, we have a few different models that we offer. We do high-density housing visits. We do park visits. So like I mentioned, we do visit Northside Park regularly during the summer. During those visits, we have books available for borrowing. We provide an activity that enhances early learning and early literacy. And also, we often provide a snack as well, because you aren't able to learn if you don't have a full belly. Full belly, full mind. So we make no assumption, we just offer snacks to everyone. We also visit farmers markets. We visit the Scott County Fair. We do visits at grocery stores if we can find parking. We also piloted last summer a visit with the Summer Wrap program here at New Prague Early Childhood, and did monthly visits where we provided a early literacy story time and a craft with our legacy arts coordinator. And we visited all of the preschool classes there 3 times. And then we also do food distributions as well. So we're over in Elko at their food distribution monthly.
Nice. Just a little overview of like what the last summer brought in terms of our overall Readmobile visits. So 4 visits were one-time visits to festivals and like, for example, the TPT program that we had in New Prague. 2 of our sites are farmers markets that we visit monthly, one in Prior Lake and one in Lydia. 3 of our sites are Spanish language sites where our learning and outreach specialist, Blanca, really is able to connect with families. It's amazing to see her at work, and I wish she could have been here tonight. But, you know, she has an instant rapport and instant connection with Spanish-speaking families. And then high-density housing, so typically like apartments, townhomes, manufactured home communities. We have 5 of those that we visited last summer. 6 parks, because that's another ideal place to, as Ally said, catch kids as they're playing. And then 4 schools, primarily in conjunction with their summer child care programs. And then 2 community organizations, which would be Shakopee Community Assistance and Elko Food, Elko New Market Food Distribution. I don't know why I always forget that one. And then of those, all those places that we visited, there were 26 sites this summer. We did 152 visits at those sites, and we had over 2,400 visitors. So very busy summer for us. And then these are the visits that are specific to New Prague. As Ally mentioned, Summer Wrap Preschool and Northside Park, and those numbers are the numbers of kids that we saw each for the preschool each time, and for the Northside Park, that's the total. And then the Superhero Elementary TPT Party, that had almost 100 kids. And then the 4th at the bottom is actually not a Readmobile event. This is actually one of those situations where we have an outreach opportunity where it didn't work to actually bring the Readmobile, but we have what's called Offsite Summer Reading Program, where we partner with school-sponsored childcare, summer school programs, and we bring them collections of books and little incentives to keep their kids reading over the summer. So there's lots to do that isn't always done with the Readmobile. And then funding sources, as Ally mentioned, you know, donations in gray, that's a big part of our initial startup, those big donations, but we also get donations from community organizations and so forth throughout the years to kind of keep going. And that's really helpful for us if we need to subsidize our food offerings, activities for kids, give away books for kids, because a lot of kids, that's really important to some of the kids that we see, is that they have a book that they can keep, that they're not expected to return. But obviously Scott County funds our positions and things like that, and the maintenance of the vehicle. Grants, you know, donations with more paperwork is really what that we're talking about there. And then nonprofit partners, we do partner with some, one organization is Matter, and they provide healthy snacks for us to hand out on the Readmobile, and they do not charge us for those. So that's kind of a snapshot. Does anybody have any questions about Reed Mobile or our
So
outreach?
like when you visit the park here in town, how long are you there?
That's a great question. We found about a 45-minute is opportune that allows people to come by, borrow books, do an activity, and then they play. A lot of times we time our visits early to mid to morning to about lunchtime.
Yeah.
That's try and get there before nap time and before it gets too hot, just for everyone to be outside for any length of time. But about 45 minutes allows people to stop by, browse books, pick up a snack.
How do you get the word out?
Yeah.
We connect with, I send all of our marketing to Ken, so it goes out with New Prague. All of your,
Newsletter, social media, park board, I know gets it in their packet when we do that. And obviously it ends up in the minutes for you guys too, if you look in the minutes that way.
So like, what about if they're county sponsored daycare or don't, do you send out emails to them too? Like, yeah, not county sponsored, but what am I trying to?
Grants?
Well, they're
a licensed childcare.
licensed, yes.
We have done licensed childcare visits in the past, and we've discovered that the Reed Mobile isn't necessarily the best model for that.
No, but I mean just.
But for promoting,
Promoting,
yes.
you know, letting the daycare provider know, hey,
We do. So one way we market is we send out postcards to houses in the surrounding area by the park.
okay,
So we try and send the information to as much. And also when we do our research for locations, I look at licensed childcare providers on the site and see how many are within location of a park.
okay.
Maybe you can get Pat there to sell him an ad. Pat.
Cool, that's neat.
It's wonderful. I know that when it's come before the park board, it's always just been met with enthusiasm and, you know, it's especially coming to the parks, and I like the interaction of the kids playing and reading, and so it's been, I think, very well received. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, because I
Yes.
think the city has been a really good partner with this too. Anytime we're like, well, we want to do this, can you save some parking spots for us? And something like that.
Yes.
It's always been really, you guys have been very cooperative and helpful. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming tonight.
Appreciate
Oh,
it.
you got one more?
Is that okay?
You
All
bet.
right. There's, two things that I would be remiss if I didn't say. One is that this, I hope you know this really just scratches the surface of what your public library system has to offer. This is broadly two of the things we do. We also operate a law library, so if there are residents who need legal assistance, it can be family law, housing law, expungement, all kinds of things like that. That is a service that we provide as well.
Out of this, all of them?
It's out of the courthouse, but those services can be delivered throughout Scott County, and I know we've had clinics here in New Prague in the
nice.
past. So reach out, and you can reach out to me, but I think you're more likely to reach out to the person who was not able to be here tonight, but is really the face of, when a library has a great reputation in a community, it's not because of the library director or the people who work in library administration. It's the person who's the face of your local library, and here in New Prague, of course, that's Lori Weldon. So I just thank her and her staff for providing great service. It's a joy for me on my monthly visits with Lori to get to just watch her operate. We usually meet not in her office, but out on the floor at the library, and I still haven't seen a single person come in that Lori doesn't know and greet by name and, you know, recommend, here's a book that I know you're going to be interested in, asking about their kids, their parents, grandparents. She is a real asset to this community. So if you have needs that come up from your chairs as council members and the mayor and city staff, reach out to me, but also make those connections with Lori as well. And we want to serve this community to the best of our ability. So thank you very much for the time this evening.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I think New
Very
Prague
good.
is very fortunate to have its own library, you know, given the size of the city. And I know that a lot of our citizens use it, especially our senior citizens. So I love the idea of the extended hours because of that. And even for students as well, where they need those resources that they might not have, and they can certainly find those at the library, so thank you.
Thanks. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the city engineer project updates. Is there any? I mean, we gotta,
He included that, brief memo for the packet, but Chris is
Nothing.
not with us tonight. He was busy with something else. But he didn't sound like there were any major updates, that he had otherwise.
kinda looks like the same stuff
Fall
from
asleep on you?
the last time.
Yep.
Mine does that too.
So it was part of the consent agenda?
No, I think,
Yeah, yes, that one, that was just slipped in there with the consent agenda.
yeah. Yes, man, I'm trying to figure this out on. So, the next item is public invited to be heard on matters that are not on the agenda. Is there any public that wants to be heard on matters that are not on the agenda? I don't
Patrick?
Okay. So with that, we'll move on. We have no public hearings, no ordinances. So ordinances for adoption, item 9.
All right, I'll be very brief. First item under item 9 is 9A for the light industrial district retail amendment. As you recall, I introduced that at the last council meeting on November 7th. We did not have any revisions suggested to the ordinance at that time, and therefore we are looking for your approval of the language here tonight. And again, that was just adding as a conditional use. Retail sales up to 30% of any overall building or tenant space in a building, not to exceed 5,000 square feet in either case, so.
So this would be a first or second reading?
This is second reading for adoption.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, you weren't here at the.
No, I wasn't,
first
sorry.
itself.
So with that, I would take a motion to approve a second reading of ordinance number 333.
So moved.
Sean made a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Maggie made the second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. All right, the next item, ordinance number 334.
All right, so once again, we have a second reading, this time for the tree ordinance amendments. We did have revisions that were suggested at the council meeting on November 7th. We had revisions made to the ordinance title. I believe we added a comma in there, so public tree care, comma, tree diseases and infestation. And then we also added to one of the sections regarding ordinary planting and care. So we added the word planting in there. And then one of the questions came up about under the actual care section, if we did mulching on the trees and we added the words mulching and planting under the maintenance requirements. So those are things we do. So those were the changes that were made to the ordinance from its introduction to the second reading here tonight. So if you have any questions on that, I can stand for them, but just looking for a second reading and adoption of that. And then also, I don't think we had a clear motion to apply to become a Tree City USA participant. When we introduced this, I would look for that motion as well.
Didn't we?
As a separate.
As a separate motion, yeah. I looked back, it didn't look like we had that formally done.
Wasn't that the night I was here?
It was.
I'm pretty sure we did there, buddy.
I believe we had a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance, but not to apply for the program.
Yep.
All right, my fault.
Okay, so I would take a motion for the second reading of ordinance number 334.
So moved.
There's been a motion by Rick, seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Then I'll make the motion to apply to become a Tree City USA program or participate in the Tree City USA program.
I'll second.
And Sean seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, the next items are some resolutions on some variances, it looks, or a grant and a variance.
I do have a quick PowerPoint for you here tonight for the resolution for variance V7 2022. And this is a setback variance required, or from the required 30-foot front setback to 6 feet 8 inches for an existing deck structure to remain. And it really is an after-the-fact variance. There was a deck that you can see on that photo here that got partially put up without a permit and ended up applying for the variance here. And we'll talk about that as we go along. But the applicant is Joel Peters. So a little background, that home is very close to the front property line along Third Street Northwest. It was built in 1900. That was before we had any zoning ordinances in the city of New Prague, obviously. And it has been grandfathered in as a non-conforming structure due to the setbacks. The applicant has done several renovations and improvements to the property, which were permitted, including some siding and other improvements, new windows, I believe.
Which were or weren't?
Did get a permit for those. The original vestibule, and we'll show you a picture in a moment here, was torn off when they were doing some foundation repairs. And that deck, which I'll show you again, is what was replacing that original vestibule. And the issue was that that deck expanded beyond the original footprint of that vestibule, which obviously did not meet the 30-foot front setback. So that is what triggered our review, ultimately leading to the application for the variance. One other thing that we looked at the planning commission meeting, most homes in the neighborhood are 15 feet or under from the front property line. This is one of the closer homes to that front property line. The home itself is actually about 3 feet 5 inches at its front edge from Third Street and that property line there. This deck and the former vestibule actually set back a little further. So ultimately, the planning commission did review at their meeting last week on the 16th of November and are looking for your approval review here tonight, but we'll give you a couple of air photos here to look at. You can see the home on the left-hand side picture is actually much closer than the other homes, but the home on the east side of the property, that was a Habitat home built just a few years ago, and that did meet our 30-foot setback. But then the home directly to the west obviously does not meet the 30-foot front setback either, along with a number of other homes in that neighborhood. Again, the older nature, really nothing is built to any particular setback standard. It's all zoned single-family residential, RL 84. We have the CEC and district offices directly to the north, which are actually in the RL 90 district. But again, a good variety of setbacks for existing homes of that older vintage. So here's the important part here. You've got the original home before any of the renovations. You can see that vestibule on the outline in red there. That was removed again when they were doing foundation repairs. And then what they had done is put up this deck without a permit, which is why we did not have a chance to review it until it was, you know, about halfway done here in the photos, where they had extended it another 6 feet to the east of the original vestibule footprint. Stairway, they just replaced the existing concrete with the wooden, and with the street project being done, there were some changes to the distance and the landing and everything anyway. So we did have the building official, Scott Sass, review this. They have to do some changes to the stairs, and then some other things with the footing as well, if it's gonna remain. But again, we're just looking at the setback itself. So the deck is not any closer to that front property line than the vestibule. It just extends to the east by 6 feet, which it previously did not before. So you can kind of see basically everything outside the red area is what was the expanded area not meeting the setback. If they would have just replaced the deck at the footprint of the former vestibule, which is outlined in red here, that would have been fine under our non-conforming ordinance to repair, replace, and it does not allow an expansion. So that's why we're having the variance here tonight. Again, just a couple other properties along that side of the road here. You can see how close they are to the front property line. So you've got kind of a wide variety of setbacks in the area. And then just some other views of that deck here again. So again, it's just basically from this point to the east, that 6 feet was added on, not meeting the setback. So that's really the area for the variance here today.
It's actually a very good improvement.
Yeah, it looks a lot better than what it used to.
Yep, so again, staff and planning commission recommend approval. We did have one resident that came to the meeting, and he actually, Art Gorgon, that lives on the corner of 2nd Street Northwest and First Avenue Northwest, and he commented that he was grateful for the improvements that the applicant had made and understood that there are challenges in that neighborhood, and he had to get a variance for a deck improvement, or garage improvement that he had made about 30 years ago, so he was in support. He was the only public comment that we had during that public meeting.
Okay.
So I think with that, I will leave you with any discussion or questions that you have. And again, just looking for approval of the resolution for approving the after-the-fact deck variance.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 22-11-21-01.
Second.
There's a motion by Maggie, seconded by Rick. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Now you're up again.
All right. I believe this has showed up in a couple of weekly updates for the council, but we have a resolution here tonight for support of actually two different applications we're making for MnDOT active transportation grants. First one is for a trail through the industrial park. We've shown on the map on the overhead, it might be a little bit tough to see, but basically from Highway 21 along the north side of 6th Street through the industrial park, ending at the, we'll just say the very west end of the industrial park land that the city owns. There is a termination of the Foundry Hill Park Trail directly north of the water tower. And that's where we want to connect that up and have the crossing there. So this is actually included in the construction plan set for what the EDA is moving forward with on the extension of 8th Avenue and 6th Avenue Northwest. And this would pay for up to 100% of the construction costs for that trail, which in this case is just over $167,000. Which if we were granted the award, the EDA would just have to then provide the non-construction match at about $38,000. So that's application number one. Number two, and I'll flip this around so we can look at it the right way, is actually down by Southside Park. And this would provide a sidewalk connection. We've, over the years, and most recently, I believe this spring, actually received complaint, and we've had that year over year. There's no sidewalk on 12th Avenue from 9th Street Southeast all the way down to Tukolsky Street Southeast. And we had the segment here, and actually the one on the industrial park included on our sidewalk and trail gap map, where we were looking to fill in those gaps so people don't have to walk in the road. So again, connecting from Settlers Park all the way south to Tukolsky Street. When there are ball games at the ball fields at Settlers Park, it forces you to walk out in the middle of the road with cars parked on both sides of the road. It's kind of a dangerous and congested situation. This would provide the trail to get people off the street. And you might ask, why are we jumping from one side of the road here at 10th Street Circle over to the east and then further south? Really has to do with elevation and lack of driveways. That makes it much more workable to move that over to the east side, south of 10th Street Circle. And then obviously we're pretty much mirroring the park property on the west side of the road all the way up to 9th Street. So that was the way we could make that work. And again, this particular sidewalk segment would be a 6-foot wide sidewalk. The construction grant, if granted, would be just over $137,000, with the city providing a $31,000 city share. And if you recall, we had this included on our visioning project, and we're gonna match or provide the funding out of the ARPA funds, and this would obviously reduce that by quite a bit if we were awarded the grant. So two different grant applications, and the resolution simply allows us to move forward with the applications for both of them.
How was that missed in the
Yeah.
developing phase?
That's what I was gonna ask.
You know, I don't know that answer. That was done, so I arrived in 2004. Prague 7th was, I believe, finished up in 2003. And I don't know. We didn't have at the time, a requirement for sidewalk on every side of the road back in 2003. That was something that we added, I believe, in about 2008. Just
So this
a
was,
lack of having that requirement in our ordinance, I guess.
this,
would be the
this was
best
that
thing to say.
original development?
Say that again?
That was that original Prague 3 development?
This is actually Prague 7th.
Oh, this is Prague 7th.
What's the timing of the grant?
So the grant
process?
would be awarded, we would know by March approximately of 2023, and then you have, you can get it done in 23 or the 24 construction period if you're awarded the funding.
This question is really more EDA question, but when we've talked about the cost and estimated what we thought the cost of those road extensions would be, had we included in those numbers the cost of this sidewalk for the industrial park?
Yes, we had. So, that final number right now, I think they're estimating about 770,000, which is even less than our initial high ball number with like 900,000.
So that number did include the sidewalk?
Correct, and it included the sidewalk, so that would reduce that 770 down to about 600,000 if we were able to get this.
Okay, so should we have like a prayer at every meeting to see, so
Yeah.
we can get this?
I mean, if you wanna send cookies up to MnDOT,
Fantastic that we should do it, and I'd gladly make the motion to approve the resolution 2211-2102.
Okay.
Second.
Then a motion, seconded by Rick. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Scary, huh?
All right, the next item is general business, which review of the New Prague Golf Club golf manager's contract.
yes, at its October meeting, the golf board recommended approval of the golf manager's contract for 2023. I've included a redlined version in your packet so you can see what the changes are. Really, the major changes are just updating dates, increasing the compensation 5% from 90,000 to 94,500, including language that requires the golf manager to provide written evaluations of the employees to myself, and then just clarifying a little language about when reports need to be submitted to the city. So really looking at it, I know the number that jumps off the page is the 5% increase. If you look at that kind of in conjunction with our step system as well as COLAs, assuming what we've talked about at meetings of a 3% COLA this year, some employees will be receiving up to a 5.75% increase with both the step and the COLA, so that would actually be a little bit less than that. So I don't think 5% is necessarily a crazy thing to ask for. And I guess at that, I would recommend proceeding with the contract for golf management services for 23.
Do you feel it's obvious in the document that one of the expectations is that the budget is achieved?
I guess I've never honestly read the contract specifically with that question in mind.
Well, I think it's kind of,
I
it's in the scope
get-
of services, and I think the scope of services is nice to outline it so we have an idea. A lot of those are expectations. But I sometimes wonder when we're on a contractual basis, if sometimes we have to spell out the obvious just because it's a independent contractor relationship instead of a.
Yeah, and I know in this instance, holding someone to an exact budget is tough. For example, you might plan to spend $30,000 on water this year, but that may be blown out of the water if you have a really dry year.
No, and I don't mean that we're gonna hold someone to a budget, just similar to what we ask of you in your position is,
Yeah.
the goal is to achieve it. That doesn't mean you're gonna meet the goal all the time, there's always extenuating circumstances, but sometimes I don't, it's been so long since I've been on the golf board that I don't really know how it really operates, and so I don't know if we're holding her to the actual budget items. I think we are.
Yeah, I do know the golf meetings I attend, they go through the budget almost line item monthly.
Okay.
To just check on to make sure, ask questions when things seem to be a little bit out of whack. Those meetings are quite lengthy sometimes, but I think they're doing their due diligence to make sure that they're trying to spend those dollars as wisely as possible. And that's I mean, maybe Sean can speak to a little bit differently sitting on.
No, I agree with you. We spend a lot of time on it, so.
The other issue or comment I guess I've made in the past is that I wish, and I know they do this, but I'm not sure it's on a regular basis, but an active customer service survey or kind of a program. Because one of the contractual items is to maintain customer service and satisfaction. And I'm sure the board goes through that kind of mental work when they're making recommendations for this kind of a contract and things. But to me, it would still be nice, and I've talked to some of the members of the board about this too, and if they would do that, it would be helpful, I think. Not only for them, but for us to say, yes, you're meeting the, or at least there's a process or a program in place that every so many years we do some kind of a customer satisfaction survey or something to say, are we measuring it? Because I'm not sure how they're measuring, are they maintaining the customer service or not? I only have it when people complain to me, and this year I haven't gotten any complaints, but other years, that's how, you know, then I'm wrestling, well, is this one person out of 3, or is there, if I get 3 complaints to me, does that mean there's 10 of them out there?
No, it's been a number of years since we've done that survey before, but yes, we have done one before, but I can certainly bring it up.
Yeah, and I mean, I know there's things out there. It was about a year ago now that I implemented a suggestion box for employees, and for a while, Kurt had his just sitting on the counter, and I got a number of suggestions from golf members because they thought their suggestion box was for them. So I do know there's comments out there, and so I mean, that's a good comment to make of maybe to take back to the board and see if they're interested in kind of doing a full survey process again, or even doing an ongoing one maybe.
Yeah, I think the board is totally capable of trying to figure out what would be the structure and how often to do it, and, you know, if it's a 3-question or 30-question survey or something. But if there's a process involved besides just hearing when there's complaints, I think that's helpful to any employee to try to get feedback, whether it's positive or negative type of thing. I guess that leads me to my last question, was when we're saying we want written performance evaluations, is this to say that we haven't gotten written, there has not been written evaluations in the past?
So the way I read this is it would be providing written performance evaluations of the full-time staff at the golf course to the city. I know when I started, I will say that performance evaluations were sporadic. It felt like some departments were doing them, some departments were not doing them. And so Robin and I worked over the spring to kind of put something in place to kind of get a twice-a-year evaluation process going for employees. And this to me is just signifying that Kurt, part of his contract is to participate in that written evaluation process that we're doing of employees.
But that's to say there wasn't one in the past.
Nothing formally, I don't believe. If they were doing something, it was an in-house thing.
Any other questions?
Well, I think to kind of piggyback off of what Bruce said, is that the scope of services should be reviewed annually to ensure that they are being met. And some of them I know are hard to measure, right, the way that this is written. But getting back to customer service, to maintain customer service and satisfaction, how do you measure that? I mean, where's your starting point, and then, you know, on an annual basis, where do you go with it to ensure that that particular scope of service is being met? So I think it would be helpful to go through this Exhibit A, maybe with the golf board or with Kurt and the golf board, and figure out, you know, how are these things measurable? So
Yeah, for that one, I would say the way it's written of maintaining customer service and satisfaction to ensure retention of members and events, I think you'd base something like that. I would measure where are we at with members? Are members going down? Are events leaving? Are people coming? Like, but yeah, I mean, I think it's important if you're gonna have goals. Your goals are measurable. There's no point in making a goal if I could say I want to read more, but what does that mean? Like, do I want to read one more book, or do I want to read 10 more books?
And I understand that this is a list of scope of services, and not every one of them will be measurable, but to ensure that, you know, there's some discussion, you know, that they have been met in some way or actionable in some way, so that the contract is being met, and I'm not indicating a breach of contract by any means, but that the obligations under the contract are being met.
Any other questions? Otherwise,
I make a motion to recommend, or to approve the contract with Golf Professional Enterprises LLC to manage New Prague Golf Club in 2023.
okay, there's been a motion by Bruce. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Maggie seconded it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item is city engineering consultant recommendation.
Yes, so as you are aware, we recently went out, and accepted a proposal, or I reached out to those 6 firms in your memo. SEH, Bolton and Mink, ISG, Widseth, Bolig, and WSB, saying that we were interested in, accepting proposals for city engineer consulting work. Of those, SEH, Bolton and Mink, ISG, and Widseth all actually responded and asked some preliminary questions. And ultimately, SEH, Bolton and Mink, and ISG submitted proposals, which I've included all 3 proposals in your packet. We ended up interviewing the firms on Monday of last week. It was myself, Ken, Bruce, and Matt. Sat down with each of the firms for about 45 minutes. Heard proposals from them, asked questions. A lot of what it was kind of digging into their experience as acting as a city engineer, how they handle large projects, change orders, what other services they may be able to offer that we don't necessarily know about. And through all of that, I think we came to the end thinking that all of the services, I think, could do at least a decent job for us. In the end, really two of them, Bolton and Mink and SEH, kind of rose to the top. And we all, after a lengthy discussion, felt that SEH, with the experience they've showed us, especially in the last 6 months, as well as additional services that we weren't even really aware of, that they provided that we may be able to take advantage of, such as help seeking funding for a lot of our projects, whether at the state level or the federal level, as well as their commitment and responsiveness to us when we had questions, felt that SEH kind of rose above both Bolton and Mink and ISG in that way. I know one of our main concerns coming out of it, Bolton and Mink, while they seem very well-rounded, they also have a lot of cities in the area. And while they assured us that they would be moving pieces around to make sure that we would be accommodated, we felt that, well, what happens if in 2 years we get moved around and suddenly we're now working with somebody who we didn't necessarily interview? So, yeah, through all of that, we felt like SEH really gave us the best opportunity to continue growing and succeeding, I guess, through all of it.
and it's not like we don't use other engineering firms. This is only
Correct, so this would just be for the city engineering. In my memo, I explained that we do currently use Bolton and Mink out of the
for
wastewater. And I know Bruce uses them quite a bit for water stuff, and we have no intention of going away from that because that's working very well for us.
Okay. Any other questions? So, go ahead, Bruce.
So I'm trying to understand, what were we looking for?
So we were really looking out, we'd used SEH for almost 14 years now, and had never really looked out and accepted proposals or heard from other engineer firms to kind of be our general engineering consultants. And so we were looking for, really to see if other engineering services potentially were offering things that SEH wasn't, or service at a level that we didn't even realize we weren't getting.
Because we use their we used a predecessor that SEH bought out, and we just continued on when I was on the council back in the days, so it's been longer than 14 years, actually,
Okay.
you know, but
The, I think a couple meetings ago, we had a discussion, or Matt had the discussion about the pricing on a particular deal and that. So did you look at rack rates and look at pricing and were there any differences that were material in any way?
So when we looked at pricing, each of them kind of offered up pricing, and it was a range of, well, you know, depending on what we're doing, it's gonna be $85 to $160. And because pricing is so specific to a particular project, it was really hard to measure. Each of them said, well, you know, with our services, these are our rates, but you'll get general engineering at half of the price for so many hours. If you're calling up for just random questions, just by kind of working with us in this way and that sort of thing. And so, I mean, we did talk price, but it was another one of those things where everything was so close together, and each of them basically offering a range of their stuff, that it was really hard to make. Unless two firms were exactly the same, it would have been hard to factor in price one over the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess the only way you could do is give them an actual hypothetical and have them bid on it. But that wasn't the primary purpose of the exercise, I guess.
Correct. Yeah, if we had a very large project coming up, like in 10 years, we're talking about potentially having to build a water treatment plant, that would be one that I would say I'd expect us to go out for bid anyway, so we can get bids on it.
Yeah, I feel very comfortable in you guys interviewing and doing it. I just sense that there was a comfort level that has to be developed with our new person, as based on the conversation that you had a couple meetings ago.
Yeah, and in all honesty, when we talked about it, I mean, we struggled with, if this had been a year ago, we may have been having a different recommendation right now. I know we were struggling with SEH towards the end. Felt like some things had fallen off. Probably part of it was everyone was sick of Main Street at that point and just wanted to be done with it in every way. But especially these last 6 months working with Chris Knutson, it's been great for staff. I know Ken mentioned that early on he must not have done much development and review type stuff because there seemed to be some growing pains. But I know Matt talks to him on almost a daily basis, and he responds as if you can walk into his office. He's responding that quickly to us, so.
okay, so do you need a formal recommendation then?
I don't think we need one right now, because we're kind of using them through the end of the year, but when we get up to,
The
kind of
appointments?
appoint them every
Okay.
January, we will be bringing SEH back at that point for you.
Okay. All right, next item up is the rental house discussion. Matt? I think you were on this.
Yep, so just a quick little overview. About a month and a half ago, the league sent out an adjuster to look at all city properties due to the hail storm that we had in maybe May or whatever it was. They came back a couple weeks later and informed me that they had concerns about the rental house safety concerns. About 3 weeks ago, I received an email from the league that they would not feel comfortable insuring the rental house unless I hired an independent inspector to go make a list of items that they have issues with. I did respond back asking her what brought this concern up. And she gave me a pretty lengthy list that when her adjuster was out, they took many pictures. And the list of issues they found, just a list, is chipped and missing pieces of asbestos siding. The windows are rotten, needs paint. Front porch is a trip fall hazard and extremely rotten. Electrical and plumbing issues inside. After talking to her a little bit, I think the electrical and plumbing issues came from the renter voicing concerns, which is, again, I've been responsible for that rental house for the last 8 years, even when I was a public works supervisor. That was never brought up to me. I can tell you, me and Irene, me and the renter worked very closely together, and we were pretty prompt on any fixes. I will say that the windows are rotten. I'm not denying that. We've just never had money to invest in it. The front porch, we have Band-Aid, I would say, for the last 8 years. We've done many minor repairs. Is it in rough shape? Yes. I do believe if we hire an independent inspector, we will be putting $10,000-$20,000 into it very quickly. They are gonna list all the windows are rotten, need to be replaced. They will I will say they'll probably mention that the front porch needs to be taken off and rebuilt. I don't know of any electrical or plumbing issues. I'm not sure what they would find when they come to that. So I wanted to bring it to you. What route do you guys wanna go?
Does she have a lease?
She does, it's a month to month.
Yes, so that was part of the question is, I mean, how much money are we going to sink into this? Because at this point, the question is, we're basically being told by the league that they won't insure it at all, in its current state. And so we would have to put significant investment into this house. And I know part of the reason we brought this back is we had the boiler conversation, is that there was, we had a boiler that didn't work, and we didn't, how much do we wanna spend on this house to kind of continue rehabbing it? Obviously, when you're talking about somebody renting a space, like, there's always a sensitive situation there, but at the same time, as a city, we are also responsible for the money we have to put into it, so.
This is normally where me and Sean go, why do we even own that thing anymore, you know? I don't know. What do you think? I'm thinking, at the end of the year, she's gotta go to a home or something.
Does she have renter's insurance for her own items, her property?
Yeah, she has to provide a rental insurance to
Okay.
us.
She does.
That is correct.
Alright.
Yep.
So it's a potential huge liability for the city if there's an electrical fire and it's proven not to be up to code, or, you know, you can fill in the blank of anything else.
And we have had our inspectors go through a couple times over the last few years now to just make sure things are up to code. And so, at least through the last inspection, he gave us a list of these things aren't up to code, and we got everything kind of band-aided up to code. So I don't know if the up to code would be an issue at this point. I think more it is the league's belief that these problems are causing a health safety hazard
Sure.
to the renter, and so they believe they need to be fixed, so that way the league is not having to pay out insurance claims.
Right,
Yeah, how can the city tell other landlords
Yep.
yeah.
they have to act in one way and we act in another?
Exactly.
And that thing has been rented way below market rate. We've been subsidizing it since I've been on the council, and it's been an issue I've heard of from other neighbors in the area, that it's not fair that we're subsidizing that house. And it goes way back when we had no lease or anything, but, yeah, to Maggie's point, it's a huge liability, and God forbid something happens with it anytime soon.
I think it needs to be just tore down and.
Yeah, it would be nice if we give them a notice on December 1st, and, by the end of the year, have it empty, and then we can sit and talk about what we're gonna demolish it. That, you know, there's your 30,000 right there.
No, it's not gonna cost 30,000 to demolish it, but it should just be demoed.
Matt, remind me, we own that entire lot. Isn't there plans, or wasn't there a need that the city was gonna use if that house ever went away?
So I believe it was when we did the city hall remodel, and then we did the parking lots. That was just designated as grass area
Right,
in the future, and then potential parking space.
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
It would probably be something if for some reason we ever decided to do something with City Hall, we would probably say, hey, do we want to expand parking, or maybe make a little small park over there? Like, what are we gonna do with that space at that point?
I don't think the city should give up the land, but we should get rid of the
No,
house.
I
agree.
wouldn't give up the land.
I agree.
So I will say the big concern was, you know, them saying we need to hire an independent
Yeah,
inspector,
well,
which
how much is that gonna cost?
about $500 to $800.
Yeah,
And I can tell you the list of, I know already a few items that would be on that list that, are you willing to address those items before they do a full inspection on them? So that's really the main reason I wanted to bring it
just
to you.
looking what I paid for window, I mean, granted, you know, but I just put in windows in my house this summer, and was like, holy smokes.
We barely covered our cost as is.
Yes,
From
I
some
will
of
say
the-
with the boiler that we just put in,
And,
we don't cover the cost.
I mean, yeah, things like, obviously, we'd go through the house and if we were to demolish it, things like the boiler would get pulled out and see if we can resale.
I think we did our duty, you know, we were honorable people, she stayed there for how many years, Matt?
30 plus.
And that land was donated to the, city how long ago?
I don't know that.
Yeah, it was part of a trade with the properties back in the day that we can't find records of. But
No.
She didn't. She's always rented it.
I'm thinking if, you know, if we can, on December 1st, give her a 30-day notice.
Well, it just depends on what the lease says.
We'd
as
have,
far
we'd have
as
to look at the
notice.
lease and see exactly what, but if it's a month-to-month lease, I would assume the notice
I
isn't
think
that great.
just let city staff work that out. I mean, we don't have, we just give you guys authorization
To do something.
to remedy the problem and remove the property and.
We should get that in next year's budget, though. I don't need squatters and everybody else living in a
No,
abandoned
I think
house.
it-
Well, and it could be something, if we can get these MnDOT grants, we could have ARPA money too, that, I mean, we'll have saved $100,000 in ARPA money.
Well, I'll just give you what for that house that I just had torn down, it was 14 grand. So, and that was, that was more.
That means it'll be 28 when they find out it's city.
No, I'm just saying, so,
But we have asbestos too.
so, well,
Yeah.
that
say
could
on
be,
Yeah.
let Dwayne call. We'll
yeah.
let the fire department use it as a training house.
Well,
There you go.
you gotta
That's what we
remove
used to
the-
do.
We'd have to remove the
Asbestos.
asbestos.
Listen, you gotta remove the asbestos,
Yeah.
because that backfired on me, so. That,
How long does the insurance, how long do we have insurance?
yeah,
End of the year, I believe it is. I can verify that, but I
Yeah,
believe
I'll
it's
have to look.
They
to see
would
that.
carry us to the end of the term, the actual term. They wouldn't cancel us before the end of the term.
They haven't said they would.
Yeah, I can verify that.
I
Yeah,
think,
we can check.
I think if we didn't take any action, they certainly could, but I think if we're. So what can, oh, go
I
ahead.
would think that we should have the discussion with our attorney as soon as possible to figure out where we stand as far as what our abilities to terminate the lease, because we don't have much time by December 31st to do it. And
No, it might,
we cannot have somebody in there if we're not, don't have it insured for liability.
yep,
We could self-insure the building because we don't care if it.
Should make that a requirement of the renter.
And, yeah, and that was kind of originally what our thought was, well, hey, let's just knock this back to liability. There's no point in covering replacement, and that's where the league said we won't even do liability at this point.
Right, so we can't have anybody.
Yeah, and that building is so old, I mean, it's,
so what type of authorization do you need?
I guess
from council?
if you would just, as a council, say, staff move to have the, building vacated, we will work on whatever it takes to make that happen.
Okay, I'll make a motion for staff to work on vacating that building due to the concerns raised by the league, our insurance trust.
The league, yeah.
second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, miscellaneous, you got the meeting minutes, do we need to go over any of that? Or that was for our
Nope.
reading?
So meeting minutes for your reading, there were also the, Metropolitan Mosquito Control District sent us a letter kind of outlining what they did this year, so, if you wanna look at that. The Minnesota School Boards Association sent us their legislative platform for '23. I didn't know if you were interested, so I included that in there. And along the same lines, at the scale meeting here last Friday, the Scale Executive Committee announced, kind of where the legislative priorities would be for '23.
Is that coming up, the League of Minnesota City, legislative priority, conference? They usually have us all go
Oh,
up there.
you mean, up in.
That's in
wherever.
March.
Yeah, usually,
you mean the
usually that's in March.
At the Capitol.
At the
Yeah.
Capitol building. I know last year, it didn't sound like anyone was super interested, but yes, if anyone's interested, I can definitely,
Yeah, I'm
get
interested, I'm
us
interested
signed
in
up
doing
and head
that.
up there.
I'm interested in that one, so.
Yeah,
I know at this point, there's already been talk of because a bonding bill wasn't passed last year, are they gonna do a bonding bill this year? Or are they just gonna put it all off and try to do a big one in '24? And if there's anything that we feel like may be able to go on there, so.
All right, I'll go around the horn then. Rick?
What'd you come up with on that, whoops, sorry, what'd you come up with on that,
Oh, food truck.
food truck?
As long as they're on private property. So if they're in the parking lot, they're fine, but they're not allowed to be out on the street.
And, just to let you know, it's already been said that they're not gonna have it at the community center, and the community center said, do it on the street, and so I gotta go and tell them, you cannot do that.
Correct. Is that correct, Ken? Yeah, it'd have to be off the street.
What's the issue? What are we
So Rick called me earlier today, just wondering, cause the community center is interested in having a food truck.
Okay.
During
It's
some of
actually the hockey association that wants.
yeah, I'm guessing during some of their larger events.
Yeah.
Feed people, and just wondering if they could, one, could they have one, and two, where could they have one?
And we made exception for, what was it, baseball? With the food truck, we could park the food truck at the baseball.
But they were on the parking
Oh,
lot.
so, but it's still city property.
Well, that we have to give approval.
Yeah, see, that would have required some sort of approval then to do that.
All right.
Anything
Thank you
else,
for
sir?
checking that out. Nope, it's it.
Okay, Bruce?
Just to follow up on the rent and the tenant here, can we, contact her as soon as possible so she's not hearing it from someone else?
She'll be contacted first thing in the morning.
Okay, thank you. The, question, I think I emailed with the property tax statement, it was a new form to me.
Yep.
Thing, and they have budget information on there for the first time that I recall. But just to reconcile some of those numbers before we have our truth and, or our
Yep.
public meeting. I think the one number just sticks out so much to me, the culture and recreation up 48%. Just to understand what that is.
Yep, so I'll have to look at that. It was on my list of things to mention. So that is a new requirement this year. I think it came down from the state, because both Scott and LeSueur
These
required it from us.
supplementals.
The supplemental
Yep.
stuff. And so it's because it's brand new, we are really guessing kind of at what numbers they're looking for in certain areas. If, without looking at the hard numbers and seeing exactly what it is, I would guess the park stuff might just be going up, or culture and recreation, because we are looking at purchasing a tractor, with ARPA funds, and so that's gonna jack up our expenditures for the year.
But all these numbers are ones that we gave to them.
Correct.
Okay. And it's a state statute, state requirement?
I believe so, yeah, cause all the counties are basically having you turn stuff in.
Now, some cities sent out nice letters of explanation.
And yeah, and it's different, cause I know Scott County, we had to send a lot more information to than LeSueur, so I think they've got a base information, and Scott's running with it, and LeSueur is just doing what they're required to do.
The calendar for dates for next year.
Oh.
I was just,
Did I miss that?
It was
in the-
consent.
Oh, yeah, okay.
but like the joint powers, is there standardized days that those meet, like for New Prague Community Center and?
Yep,
Yeah, I think it's every other month on the last Monday of the
community
month.
center and swim.
And fitness center, is that monthly or?
Yes, well, so the joint powers, the aquatic center and fitness meet as one. They basically oversee both, and I believe it's every other month.
Every other month, I go,
Every other month on the fourth Monday of the month at 4:30.
yes, and I go to the aquatic one month, and I go to the community center the next. No, the community center, I do it every month.
Yeah, I don't know about, I haven't been to a community center meeting, but.
I do them every month, but the aquatic center is every other month, and, oh, there you go, that's what it is, the, St. Croix, or the, Cedar Lake, sanitary.
Yeah.
The, I don't know if it's any value, but it might be value, just put a footnotes of some of these other ones that are council designated. Things
Liaisons, yeah.
That, and that's a good, that is one I didn't think of this year, like improvement, that we have Dave Bruzek.
And
You still are.
No.
No, I am.
Well, and
you
I
are?
know in the, council orientation, I was gonna try to fill in as much of that information as possible, that I know about. But yeah, I can, in fact, maybe we can start putting them on here too, just so people know when
Yeah.
they're coming up.
Or at least just list what they are, because I forget what the other things are.
Yep.
I think that's all I had, thank you.
That's enough? Is that it?
That's
Is
enough.
that enough? I think that's enough.
Well, you're talking about a 40-inch slip.
I don't have anything.
Let's start talking about the budget.
Yeah. I don't have anything. Sean?
Okay, since budget was brought up, when do we have to approve that by?
So it has to be approved by December 28th.
Okay.
The plan is to have our truth and taxation meeting on the 5th and then formal approval on the 19th.
Okay. And then one other thing, what are the chances of getting, a flashing light, crosswalk symbol on County Road 37 by Fishtail and Mayo there, where the trail goes over 37? Like we have downtown, I just had a resident ask, that it's not uncommon for cars to blow through.
Yeah, they don't stop.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of little kids use that.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly, I mean, it would make sense to put one there.
Are you-
just
I
with
can
it just a
testify to
trail.
that one.
Are you
So
talking-
I will say the ones on Main Street are $38,000.
Ooh.
The ones that we're proposing to be on 10th Avenue and First Street are roughly 18. That was a year and a half ago, so I would say they're probably low 20s now.
Are you talking flashing lights like those, or maybe the ones that just flash?
Just something to make it more prominent. I guess it doesn't have to be like the one, that's kind of what I was envisioning.
Something where people could hit it and
Yeah,
turn it on.
yeah,
Yeah, so you probably don't need the automatic one, but at least a button.
so.
Yeah,
just something.
that's a tough crosswalk,
Yep, it
believe me.
is.
That one, and then those other ones, I mean, I'm avoiding that guy from the, the Phillips building because, he says, there needs to be a crosswalk there, and so I deal with that all the time.
And
Yeah, so we didn't budget $22,000 to put one in, but I can look at it to see if there's other options before we get to that point. I mean, there are cheaper options before you start putting a blinky in, but just to buy us some time.
Sure, okay. that'd
Yeah,
be
even,
great.
yeah, just something more visible, because just the green signs there, people just, they don't pay
like the
attention
ones
to
we
them at
have
all.
down by the high school.
Yeah.
How much are those?
7,
Okay,
but they're pretty well known to work for about 6 months and then
no,
they don't work anymore. I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
why everyone you don't really see those too often now that everything's blinkies, but
Mm-hmm.
again, there are a couple $100 options that aren't flashing, but they can help the reflectivity of them and just to buy us some time so we can put that as a budgetary item if that's what the council wants to do.
We should add,
Put in those tire strips, that pop up. They drive over them.
should have asked Scott County before we took that road back from them.
Yeah, that
Put
would
it
be a
in.
good idea.
Shoot.
Anything else, Sean?
No, that was it, those two.
Maggie?
I don't have anything this evening.
Matt?
I got nothing.
Chief?
I have nothing further.
I have nothing.
Nope.
You?
All right, I've got 8 minutes of stuff because I gotta buy
No,
coffee if
no,
I,
you do not.
if I
know
don't talk
what's-
for 8 minutes, then I gotta buy coffee.
No, buy coffee.
No, I just have a few things. Reminder, the next packet will be digital. Police chief interviews are scheduled for Monday morning at 9 AM, for those that are able to make it.
How many council members is there more than 3 signed up?
Yes, well, there is 3
Oh,
at
there
this
is.
point.
So it was posted.
Yes, we haven't posted yet, but we are, I think, probably gonna post tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. for it.
What time was that? Monday what?
9 AM. Tax info, oh, we already talked about that one. And Bruce had also wondered about putting the visioning document out on the share drive. That is a grand idea. I can do that, because about once a month I go through and kind of try to update everything in there, so I will get that put on there. And then you'd also mentioned the budget link wasn't working, so I will go check to make sure permissions and whatnot are good for that. So that way you guys are up to date on not only the approved budget, but where the current budget is standing and talks like that without having to root around in papers in your office, so.
And as you mentioned that, the final budget, I think we normally see more of a summarized one. I think that's the one that we present at the
Yes.
public thing, but in other years, at least one of our 2 years, once we get the final down, I would appreciate getting a copy of the full budget with all the department.
Yep.
Excel spreadsheets.
And, yep, I can do that,
Nitty-gritty
yeah, I'll
detail.
put that,
And maybe
I can
you'll
put that
post
in there
that.
as well, yeah.
That is what I was gonna ask you, is that, and, are we gonna at least have some paper, the agendas, because, separate, because that way we don't gotta page up and down just to find out the next thing on the agenda.
That is a good idea. Yeah, we will, I can make sure that we've just got agendas at least, that way everyone can
That
go
we're
through
gonna
them and,
need, yeah.
work with Mitch to always at least have an agenda up on the screen, so that way people in the audience can see one.
And since we're being piddly,
Piddly.
and I'm not,
Thought you were done.
I'm not, can we, number the packet, or is that too much work?
What do you mean, like page number?
Yeah,
So that actually, we now have that ability. Barb has a PDF editor, and so she can easily just page number everything. And so, yes, we'll make sure that everything's page
well, I
numbered.
think our printer scanner does it too.
It does, it was always tough when you print them all off, because inevitably, I would make her change something. She'd print them all off, and I'd say, hey, can you slip this in there? And it'd throw all the numbers off, so you're having to print again.
Oh, so it's you.
Is me. But it's all of us together.
I think so, it's so much easier, because on the computer, you can look what page it is, but the hard copies don't have page numbers.
Correct.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
9.
Oh, 9.
9, yep.
So you're buying the coffee for me, right, since I got
No,
out of here?
No.
Because he doesn't drink cheap coffee. Like, he
Oh, he's
finds-
one of those, one of,
I drink cheap coffee unless Josh
He,